What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla if y'all are new here, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing how I passed my NCLEX in 85 questions. Just a little backstory. I graduated May 12th. I received my authorization to test, also known as the ATT, on May 23rd. I scheduled my test the same day, and I scheduled my test for June 20th. I studied for the NCLEX for a little bit over 3 weeks. I want to say about 4 weeks. And let me tell y'all, like by day, I want to say 5 days before my exam, I was like, okay, maybe I should have moved this thing a little bit closer. Like, I'm over reading up rationales, I'm overdoing these practice tests. Like, I'm just ready to take my test. But I stuck with the date that I had already scheduled my test for, and I took it June 20th, and I passed my NCLEX. So I want to start this video by sharing 3 tips that I feel like everybody should do before taking their NCLEX. Y'all, the NCLEX is a big deal. Like, I know people say it's just like another exam. It really isn't. Like, this is a state board test. Like, you need to take it serious. You need to prepare for it as best as you can. You know, just, yeah, go in it with that mindset like this is a big deal. I need to do well, and you will do well. So the 3 tips that I wanted to give y'all to start off this video is not like any study tips, but 3 tips that I feel like would really help you along your journey in this process of taking your NCLEX is to don't overwhelm yourself with more than one resource. And what I mean by that is there's Archer, there's UWorld, there's Kaplan, there's Hirsch Review, there's all these different resources out there, right? Choose one of them, the one that you feel like is the most credible, that you can afford, that, you know, works best for you, and stick with that one resource. Don't be out here using all these different resources, because that's when you start to feel overwhelmed. You get anxious because there may be conflicting information on the different resources that you're using, and it's not the best, y'all. So choose one resource and stick with it. The next tip that I want to give y'all is to do not tell anybody when you're taking your test. Now, some people probably like, I want to share this with my friends, I want to share it with my mom, blah, blah, blah. But if you're the type of person that, you know, the more people that text you on test day, the more anxious you're going to feel and all that kind of stuff, then keep that to yourself. Leave that between you and nobody else, okay? Because when test day come, those text messages gonna start rolling in, and you're gonna start feeling anxious, and the people gonna be like, did you get your results? How'd you do? Blah, blah, blah. And if you didn't do well, or you just don't know, it just builds on top of the anxiety, y'all. So I ended up telling a few people, and honestly, the people that I told, they weren't bad or anything, but I kind of wish I would have kept it to myself, so that, like, I just didn't feel as anxious as I was feeling when people were asking me how I did, and I was waiting for my results and all that kind of stuff. So I wish I would have kept that to myself, so I wanted to share that with y'all, because you don't have to tell nobody the day that you test. You can just pop out and be like, I passed my NCLEX, and I went. I'm a registered nurse. So that was another tip that I wanted to give y'all. Maybe you don't have to share your information with nobody else, your test date with anybody else, but, you know, whatever. If it works for you, it works for you. If you don't, whatever. And the last tip that I want to give y'all is to prepare yourself to take all 135, 145. I don't know what the new maximum amount of questions is, but prepare yourself to take every last one of them questions that they give you. And I'm saying this because if you prepare yourself that, oh, my test's gonna cut off at 85 and I'm gonna be out of there, I'm gonna be done, then you go to take your NCLEX, you sit down, you press 85, and you do 85 questions, and you click next, and it says 86. What happens now? You're going to be feeling so anxious. You're going to be like, oh my God, it didn't cut off at 85. What if I'm doing bad? Blah, blah, blah. Say you keep going, you get to 100 questions. Now your anxiety is through the roof, and you kind of set yourself up for failure by thinking that you were only going to get 85 questions, because now you're at 100 questions, and because your anxiety is so high, you feeling all nervous and all this kind of stuff, you making mistakes on your exam, you not reading the question fully, you sweat and you nervous and all that kind of stuff. That really puts a damper on how you doing your test. That puts a damper on your confidence, and it's not the best strategy to use at all. So don't go in there thinking that you're gonna get only 85 questions, y'all. Be prepared to take all 135, all 145, and when you mentally prepare yourself for that, then whatever comes your way, you're ready for it. I hope that made sense, but those were the top 3 things that I wish that, not that I wish that I would have done, but I really want to share with y'all, because I feel like that could really make or break your experience for real. So now getting into how I studied for my NCLEX, the number one thing I want to get into is what platform I use. So like I just mentioned, there's so many different resources out there. There's ATI, there's UWorld, there's Archer, there's Hirsch Review, there's Kaplan. There's so many different things out there, and I used Archer. My school did not provide like any resource for us, so when I was ready to start studying for the NCLEX, I bought Archer. And I'm gonna give y'all my reasonings for doing so, and it's really not hard it was really hard for me to choose a platform. I went with Archer because, one, I was hearing the most about Archer and people having success with using Archer, and 2, what kind of solidified it for me was that Archer is much cheaper than UWorld, and those were the 2 that I was in between, Archer and UWorld, because I've heard that those 2 were the best platforms to use. But when I looked at them prices, I was like, hey, nobody got $200, $300 something to be using UWorld. And I think what I do, the 60-day plan with Archer was only like $80. So I was like, yeah, this made my decision pretty easy. So I went with Archer, and by the time I bought it, I was about a little bit over 3 weeks away from my exam. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna use the little 3-week study plan that they have on their website, and I kind of followed it. I followed it just a little bit, y'all. But the days that it said to do CAT exams, I did CAT exams. The days that it said to do readiness assessments, I did readiness assessments. And honestly, I really liked Archer. I feel like the rationales were very good. Because I told myself I'm not gonna really be trying to relearn all the information that I learned in nursing school. Wasn't possible. Wasn't finna be trying to do that. So the rationales were very detailed, not very detailed, but they were good enough to where I felt like, okay, I understand what they're saying. Like, I don't have to go outside of the question, go to another resource and try to figure out to get a better understanding of the question. I don't know if that makes sense, but I really like the explanations for the questions. They covered a variety of different topics. I like that I could see what categories I wasn't doing well in. I like that it gave you the peer average, so you can see how you're doing compared to other people that have taken that CAT exam or readiness assessment, and just see how you're doing compared to other people. I really like that. What else? I'm not gonna lie to you, I did not really watch any of the videos on Archer. I didn't really care for them. I kind of felt like they were a little bit boring. So if I really felt like I needed to brush up on something, I just went on YouTube and watched Simple Nursing, or I found another platform to use and I kept it pushing. So yeah, I did a total of, I want to say 7 readiness assessments, and I did 4 CAT exams in total. And on all of the readiness assessments, I scored very high for a probability of passing my NCLEX. And on 3 out of the 4 CAT exams, I passed. If you don't know the story on how I got that failed result, go ahead and watch my last video on like my actual NCLEX reaction and vlog and all that, so you can know what happened, because that was crazy. But I really swear by Archer. I really feel like Archer was harder than the actual NCLEX. I feel like the NCLEX was very just broad and very general. There wasn't a lot of wording in the questions. There wasn't, it was just, I felt strange when I was taking it, because I was like, is that it? Is that the entire question? Like, I really wish I could describe it more, but the questions to me were very simple, and they were so simplified to the fact to where I was like, do I understand what it's really asking? Like, I don't know. It was so simple that it felt hard to me. And it feels silly to say, but that's really how I felt. So the questions on Archer, I feel like were a little bit harder, but content-wise, I think it did very well for preparing me for the NCLEX. And I think I'm gonna leave that there. I don't wanna, there's not really much else I can say about it, but I feel like Archer is very affordable for anybody, and it really worked for me. So that is what I did. Ooh, what else I wanna get into is, when you're reading your rationales, right? Handwrite them, for one, And for 2, if you're in a place to where you can read them out loud, read them out loud, because I feel like hearing yourself talk about it, it kind of helps with you processing the information and understanding it better. So what I did was, when I was going through my rationales, I was writing them down in my iPad. I had a whole little journal that was titled Archer, if you can see that. It says Archer Rationale. Oh, get out the way, girl. It says Archer Rationales and Notes. And any rationale that I, like if it was a question I missed, I wrote it down for sure. And if it was something that I feel like I didn't really understand, or I didn't know that, like if I ran across something I've never heard of, I went ahead and wrote it down. And then the day that I chose to review my notes, I went through and I highlighted stuff. I added pictures and yeah. So that's how I went through my rationales on Archer, and I suggest you doing that as well. Make sure you write it down, make sure you talk it out loud, and make sure you you're processing the information in that way. Because I feel like when you've been studying for so long, you get to the point to where like you writing everything down, but you're not really processing what you're reading or what you're writing down. You just get to the point to where like I just gotta get this done. I gotta get through all of these rationales today so I can move on to something else tomorrow. You get to kind of get in that little aspect when you're tired of studying. So I highly suggest doing that so you can stay in your zone and make sure that you're processing everything and you're not really wasting your time not getting a good study session in. Okay. So the second thing that I used to study for my NCLEX was NCLEX High Yield. I don't know where I heard of NCLEX High Yield from, but I'm very, very happy that I ran across it, because NCLEX High Yield, the man's name is Dr. Deshawn or Zeshawn or something like that, and he takes very complex topics, high yield content that is more than likely going to show up on the NCLEX, and he breaks them down, he dumbs it down, he simplifies it to the T. And I really like that, because each one of his lectures on Spotify were about 10, maybe 15 minutes, and that was it. Girl, I listened to it when I was in the car, when I was in the shower, when I was cooking meals. Like, it was very easy to listen to. And I took notes on my phone, and I would label it, and I would write down what he was saying, anything that I felt was important. And I listened to a good number of his lectures on Spotify. I think he has a total of like 35 on Spotify, and I listened to, I want to say, at least 20 of them. And every last one of them, I felt like they were very good. Like, even when I was listening to them and I would go back and do practice questions or something like that on Archer, the content that he was covering was popping up on Archer, and everything that he was saying was matching up with like the rationales and the questions that I was getting on Archer. So I highly recommend him. Like 10 out of 10. It's free on Spotify, and I also follow him on Instagram. Something that I use by him is the Ask Graph, and it's kind of like a prioritization, or a kind of like which patient are you freaking out about. And I'm not gonna really go into detail about what the Ask Graph is, but I highly suggest that if you're preparing to take your NCLEX, go ahead and look him up on Spotify or on Instagram and look at the Ask Graph, because I think that helped me a little bit with figuring out, okay, which patient am I freaking out about, which one should I see first, kind of thing. So yeah, he was very I really liked it. And lastly is, y'all already probably know what I'm about to say, but the holy grail, the man himself, Mark K. I used him to study for my NCLEX as well. And I'm not gonna lie, when I was studying for my NCLEX, I didn't go through all 12 lectures, but the day before my test, I listened to lecture 12, and that lecture, I don't know what it is about it, but the tips and the tricks that he gives you for like prioritization and delegation, and when you come down to a question that you don't know, here are the tricks that I want you to use. And I feel like every single thing that he said, I used at least once on my NCLEX. And I don't know, he just does a very good job of like making things make sense. Like, when you can take something that's hard and just make it simple, you my type of person. So I use Mark K. I've listened to more than just lecture 12, but that was the one that I feel like is a must listen to when you're preparing for your NCLEX. I listened to the other lectures like a while ago, not when I was studying for my NCLEX, but during my last semester of nursing school, and I feel like those were nice too. So if you have the time to actually go through 1 through 12, I feel like they would be beneficial. But lecture 12, That is a must. Make sure you listen to that one. And maybe listen to it more than once. And use those techniques that he's giving you whenever you're doing your Archer practice exams or your readiness assessments or whatever platform you're using to do practice questions. Use those techniques and practice them so that when it comes to the NCLEX, you already know what you're doing. You already know, that process and that technique of going through things when you don't know which answer to choose. So this video was very sweet and short. So I hope that this helps y'all. I really didn't go that much into detail. So if y'all have any questions, feel free to comment them down below. Y'all can also DM me on Instagram. I want to be a resource for y'all. So congratulations to anybody that is just graduating nursing school, preparing to take their NCLEX. I'm so proud of y'all. Y'all can do it. You made it through nursing school, so you most definitely are not finna let the NCLEX stop you from starting your job, okay? You got it. Take your time. Be confident, and you will do well. You will do well. I have no doubt in my mind about it. So, yeah, good luck to you. Congratulations in advance. And as always, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see y'all in my next video. Mwah.